Return of the Mount Hua Sect. Chapter 273. So prestigious sects don't have heads. Guys, calm down. Dud. No, don't keep aiming. Dud. Don't take them down with one hit, you bastards. Dud. Despite Baekchun's desperate cry, the momentum of Mount Hua's disciples didn't stop. The spectators, who were only just cheering for the wins at first, began to look at the disciples of Mount Hua with shocked eyes. What is this? No. How are all the matches the same? Now, everyone was carefully watching those with the black robes and plum blossom symbol. This time too. Whenever they saw a disciple of Mount Hua standing on the stage, they were filled with anticipation and shock. Receiving such burdensome gazes, Yoonjung looked at the sky. Something is different from what I had thought. Putting aside the gazes on him, Yoonjung looked at his opponent with a frown. This one too. Their legs were stuck firm to the ground, their hand clenching onto the sword too tightly, and their shoulders. They looked so stiff, like the bones of their shoulders could pop out of their sockets at any moment. Although his opponent had the will to not fly out with just one hit, you won't be able to show your skills either. Of course, his opponent couldn't be blamed. If Yoonjung were in his position, he would have felt the same. Even Gongcho was looking at Yoonjung with much expectation. Since he was a disciple of Mount Hua, they were asking him to show them something impressive. Even the referees, who were meant to be impartial, were looking at him with anticipation, so it was obvious that this disciple from another sect would feel burdened not to lose in one hit. On the other hand, Yoonjung was saddled with showing something impressive. Yoonjung clenched his sword at those burdensome eyes. No matter who his opponent was or the situation, it wasn't impossible for him to show his skills. If that is the case, it was better not to hear that demon's nagging. He relaxed his grip on his sword. And again, the important thing wasn't showing his strength, but not being nervous. Yoonjung took a deep breath and looked at his opponent. Calm down. Calm down. Start! Gongcho yelled out, and his opponent ran at him, their sword raised as high as possible. The swift and sharp sword flew at him, yet his opponent was still stiff in face and form, as expected of the Denchang sect. Oddly enough, Yoonjung didn't feel threatened by his opponent's sword. Was the force of his opponent dulled? No. Fast yet slow. Strong but weak. It felt all too strange. The opponent's sword was clearly swift and strong, but in Yoonjung's eyes, the speed of the sword seemed to be slowing down. Damn it, my body was tamed by him. If he compared his bout with Chongmyung to this, then his opponent's sword appeared not to be moving at all. Even if he couldn't completely deny Chongmyung's sword, it was easy enough for Yoonjung to become used to Chongmyung's techniques and subsequently dodge his sword. Shh! His opponent's sword flew forward, and Yoonjung neatly moved to the left, a single step to the left. And at that moment, the side of his opponent was clearly visible. For now, a light. But before his head could even think, his sword moved, and with that, he boldly hit the side of his opponent. Bang! Ugh! The guy who was hit on his side screamed as he fell out of the circle. Yoonjung looked at his opponent, who had flown away with an absurd expression. I should have taken a closer look at my opponent's sword. This wouldn't have happened if I... Winner, Mount Hua's Yoonjung. With the declaration from Gongcho, shouts rained in again. Whoa! Again! One hit! What kind of guy can end the spar with just one blow? No, maybe we shouldn't call it Mount Hua, but instead the one-strike sect. Amazing! For real! Yoonjung came down as he received the cheers and looked at Baekchun, who was still in shock and was awkwardly scratching the back of his head. I'm sorry, Sasuke. I really was trying to see the movement of his sword. But, the moment I saw a gap, my body just moved. Baekchun let out a deep sigh at that. Right. You worked hard. He tamed us completely, Sasuke. Baekchun's eyes trembled. As he slowly turned his head, he looked at the image of Chongmyung, still chewing his jerky. This is why people sometimes want to spit on smiling faces. Clearly, the one who said this proverb had experienced something like this. Seeing that binging and smiling face, even Baekchun wanted to do it. From Mount Hua's point of view, the first day was going smoothly. Of course, from the point of view of the other sects, who had been watching such a day pass with slack jaws, it really felt like lightning had struck them on their heads. But there was really no need to worry about their position, right? Right? But the disciples of Mount Hua, who had finished their first day of preliminary rounds, weren't too excited. They all stared into the sky with their eyes wide open. In the dorm that Shaolin had provided Mount Hua, Joel looked at his hand with his half-focused eyes and glanced around. Unsurprisingly, all the other disciples seemed equally puzzled. Were we this strong? It had to be them who were weak. Does that make sense? They were all disciples of 9 great sects of One Union and the 5 great families. Who was the person I won over from? The Hebei Peng family. Does it make sense to say that those who had come from the Hebei Peng family are weak? At least among the young warriors of the Hebei Peng family, the ones here had to be the most skilled. Winning was great. However, they didn't just win. They smashed them down in one hit. They would be happy if they had fought for a long time and won. But this felt too weird. Phew! Well, it was too simple. At those words, everyone looked at Chongmyung, who nodded. You thought it would be hell, but you gave them hell instead. I thought that if the other sects were considered strong, they must have also practiced as much. We really did go to hell and back. The disciples of Mount Hua looked at Chongmyung with a complicated gaze. Now they realized why this damned bastard had driven them all to hell. Come to think of it, everyone almost died 3 to 4 times, right? I fell down a cliff without a safety rope more than 5 times. What are 3 or 4 times? I got beaten so hard by that bastard with the wooden sword that I didn't wake up for 3 days. I'm so glad that I'm alive. He isn't a human, for real. The results are good, so I cannot say that. Baekchun also sympathized with their words and looked at Chongmyung. What is with that guy? By now, he had given up trying to understand him with only common sense. But whenever such outrageous things had happened, he was forced to think about it again. Strong enough to teach others. Nonsense. Then wouldn't the elders and sect leader fall short in front of Chongmyung? It was certainly strange that even the famous disciples who looked down on them could not withstand a single blow from the disciples of Mount Hua. But I know one thing for sure. At those words, everyone turned to who had just spoken. Yunjong continued to speak. We are freaking strong. If not, maybe the people of those prestigious sects weren't as strong as we thought. That was equally absurd. Usually, Baekchun would have rebuked that, but Yunjong was speaking from experience, so he couldn't say anything or reprimand him. 10 of the 15 contestants had fought today, and all were victorious. It wasn't just a victory, but a unilateral win. There should be a place and time to be humble, but it felt shameful to even talk about having a humble nature after today. Sorry, it is just that I am lucky, but actually, the others were more skilled. What would happen if the winning person had said that? The others would undress him, beat the shit out of him, and maybe even break their heads with inkstones and whatnot. Baekchun bit his lip. Baekchun bit his lip. He had to lead the others. Even if everyone was excited about this, he had to focus. I know all of you are excited about such results, but everyone must stay focused. There is no way that the true potential of these prestigious sects is just this. Bang! At that moment, the door was opened with such ferocity that they thought it might break. What? That scared me! The disciples all jumped up at the sound, but as soon as they looked at the door, they were all too shocked. Elder Hyunyong. No, sect leader. Baekchun rubbed his eyes. What? He looked like Elder Hyunyong for a second. It was Hyunjong who had almost broken the door just by opening it. He had a benevolent smile and a halo behind his head, and the lips. Man, his lips were smiling. The softly curved eyebrows and arms spread. This man looked like the real incarnation of Buddha. Sect leader, we greet you, sect leader. Hyunjong nodded and slowly walked in. You all worked so hard, really hard. And he stroked Jogul on the head as he was the closest. Baekchun smiled. It had been quite some time since he had seen Hyunjong smile so brightly. Well, why wouldn't he be? He had been sitting with many famous sect leaders and family lords, and it had been a long time since something like that happened. Not to mention, everyone had come to showcase their power to their disciples' skills, and Manhua had been on top. It was not strange that he looked like he might ascend into the heavens. How proud your ancestors would have been if they saw this. Hyunjong gently looked around. It was around the time when everyone was sobering up from their excitement. Don't just stand out there. Come inside. Come stand inside. This time, it was Hyunyong who came in. He was holding out several large baskets stacked in front of him. Hyunjong looked at that and asked, What are all these? Food. Food. What food? Ah, it is for the kids. Hyunjong frowned at Hyunyong's words. But Shaolin provides meals. Hyunjong shook his head at those questions. The only things they would feed us here are made of grass. How can they get energy from that food? Hyunjong placed the baskets on the table and then pulled off the cloth, uncovering one after another. Grilled chicken and steamed pork were revealed. You need to eat meat to get energy. Meat? I cannot feed grass to my precious kids. Hyunjong's eyes widened. Meat? Yes. In Shaolin, you brought meat. At those words, Hyunjong's expression turned gloomy. What about it? They follow their own laws and we our own. No, but... He never thought he would see someone bring meat into a temple-like place, and least of all, his saje. He was so shocked that he could not speak as Hyunjong called the kids forward and began to serve them the meat. Now, come and eat. Eat and get more energy, you cute bastards. We will have a hearty meal. Thank you, Elder. Come on. Hyunjong watched the disciples eat with great satisfaction. Of course, this was a horrible sight for the others, but they appeared as cute chickens pecking at their feet for Hyunjong. Chongmyong, where is Chongmyong? Ah, there you are. He ran to Chongmyong, who was nodding off in the corner, and patted him on the back. Chongmyong, it's meat. Let's eat. Chongmyong's eyes opened. Meat? Right. You must have had a tough time eating that grass. From today onwards, I will feed you meat for every meal. Everyone was happy, and Hyunjong mumbled, Is this really fine? Well, what do you mean? If they feel it is unfair, tell them to win. Hyunjong stroked Chongmyong on the head as he ate the meat with an innocent face. Will you be able to do well tomorrow? We will win. We will break their head. Right, their heads. Seeing the two being excited like this, Hyunjong also smiled. Now, even I don't know. Well, everything should be fine.